I'm so sorry, that's my fault. I should have been recording.
The recording is only starting now and not 5 minutes earlier.
I think it would have been great to have that captured.
Yeah, please repeat everything you just said.
No, I think it's great. I think it's like there's a real vision there that you're bringing, and I'm just like, oh yeah, it seems like the seeds needs that, and it needs all of our vision, all of our kind of like energy and passion. So it's kind of like, yeah, it seems valid to me. And like, how can we create those flows together, and what's needed? And that's kind of what I was feeling as you were saying that. So.
Can you guys listen to me? Yes, I'm very resonate what you say, Michael. And I was wondering if we can make some teams to explore outside from what we are doing in seats, but bring some what you are just bring for us. That is other perspective, really, about what we must focus to really create this flow. And maybe people who are here telling the story about seeds and creating this sense making that we are doing, not only for the explorers, but for the seeds in general. We have some people that are much aware that we must look more deeper in the proposals and create this more reachable for. But I believe that we are in the step very interesting, that because we are transiting for a step that seeds will be more locally and bioregionally focused but yeah, I'm just learning, but I thought my thoughts that you are bringing is very important. And I also explore others regenerative movements, and I think that we have a lot of quite amazing people that can do a lot of good things. I don't know, but we can aim something that we must do and give some people to focus for this, and you know.
It's such an important point. If I can maybe add to that, Charles. So when I started writing the article, I wanted case studies, or at least examples of how this idea of flow is being created. So I thought, no problem, I'll come to the Seeds Discord server and I'll find lots of examples there. And I really struggled. So I've had a conversation with Carly in Central America somewhere. She's doing some good stuff. It's on a small scale, but at least she's getting things going. Now, let me put this idea of case studies in perspective. I follow a lot of venture capitalists and funds from Silicon Valley who are all inspired by non-fungible tokens and other tools in this space. And they're constantly writing hypothetical use cases and saying, you know, we could do this and we could do that. And, you know, they're really trumpeting the idea of non-fungible tokens, obviously from a capitalist perspective, which is fine, that's their worldview. But it's inspiring to read that stuff. And I come here and I genuinely assumed I'd see the same volume of stuff as what I'm seeing from venture capitalists here in the seeds environment, and there's almost nothing. So that's what we should be doing, is taking small case studies, small wins, small things that happen in the seeds world and extrapolate them and say, what happens if we could do this, this, and this? And imagineer this kind of civilization that we're wanting. But I see little evidence of that. So whether it be case studies, whether it be hypothetical case studies, I think that's what we as a group, particularly the storytelling group, could and should be doing.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for the article. I have read it. And I would like to share what happened to me while reading it, because you somehow wrote the blueprint I also have in my head and I'm partly working on, but I never wrote down that blueprint. And Anna in the beginning asked about the journey this week, and this morning when I came to the place where I'm currently at the train, I wrote a little bit about my journey in the forum, because I love that there is now a forum, which is a bit more easier to read for me. And I am currently confronted with my own, I call them shadows. The shadows related to my relationship with money and the fear that these big venture capitalists will come and take our wonderful little seed and bring it to something we all don't want. And my feeling is that, and that's why I'm in this part of the storytelling group, that we need a kind of conscious bridge builders right now who are able to bridge these stories and still from their heart protect the core values. And my personal guess is that we are not yet there where we would be on an eye level with those people who are out there and who are ready to hijack every technology if the technology is ready. So I'm working also in the part of circular economy, and I wanted to bring it up in Switzerland and just found out we don't have any institution I would call circular. So I'm sharing a part of your frustration that the examples are not yet out there and still they exist. So if I can put a wish out there, Michael, be a bit more patient and still make it happen that these things now come into life. Thanks.
Beautiful. If I may comment, because this reticence or this fear of money is a general sense that I receive from these groups that I've been involved in. I think we are all holding back because of our own misunderstandings of money, and I include myself in it. I cannot tell you how difficult it was to write the article. I haven't published it yet, but even to share it among a small group here, because of my own hang-ups about money. And so that's why I found the inner work so important, because unless we all get to that point of a deep gratitude for what money has done for us to date, and stop seeing it as the enemy, and stop seeing creators of debt as the enemy, they're all part of this journey together. And now it's our time to step in, overcome those inner fears that we have, and play an even bigger role than the creators of debt, money, and etc. have done. Because now is our time to shine, no matter how fearful we may be. And that's the challenge for this group, is to step into that space of fear, because that's where our growth happens. And I don't see enough of that happening yet. And yes, of course, I'm patient, but let's recognize the scale at which we could be playing here.
It's a scary thing because we have to face our own shadows. And what brought me here into that field is that I feel now it's time that we all face the shadows, meaning looking at our own story with money. It's a story of me as a person, but it's also a story of our culture and the last 5,000 years. And I feel if we are able to do, and that's what I liked about the idea, the inner and outer work and the storytelling, in that way you so nicely orchestrate this, we have an opportunity to do that. And I'm happy to explore that. And yes, we need to be fast, but sometimes if we do the homework in the beginning, then we are fast afterwards. I see Bongi is raising his hand, so I hand over to you, Bongi.
Oh.
I guess you now do the introduction, which we hijacked for the last half an hour.
Okay, just for everyone to know, I do not see hands, I do not see hearts, I don't see any reactions in the screen ever. So if you want to speak, just unmute yourself and speak up, or raise your actual hand, because I can't see it. I have a weird version of Zoom. And it was absolutely not hijacked. This, what just happened here, was absolute gold. And it will tie up to one activity that I will propose for later in our session. So it's absolute perfection. Thank you very much for everyone here. And Bongi, please go.
Yeah, I just want to second that. For me, it's really refreshing to see people speaking up and speaking truth, their truth, and speaking the things that really, really motivate them. And I think, you know, this meeting's about storyteller core group, which I think in some ways is really an acknowledgement. It's a slightly different thing than just creating stories. It's also thinking about what are the important messages. What can we draw from the entire storytelling pool to create messages which have impact, which really align with where the movement needs to go, which recognize these issues and these opportunities that you're pointing out, Michael. And so, yeah, I also don't feel like it's a hijack at all. I love that these things are shared. And I think in a way we can kind of meld that into, yeah, the introduction to this space, which is really, so first of all, just to give a bit of context, the Storytellers Core Group is a very new space, and Anna introduced it last week. But the bit that I really wanted to presence here was, yeah, a few things which are not set in stone, but they are precedents, and they, you know, are likely to impact or at least feed into the space. And then to kind of speak to that, you know, what I loved about what you were sharing, Michael, is that you can feel a sense of purpose. When you talk about that you're doing it for your daughter, you can feel a sense of purpose. And there's a real, very significant reason behind what you're doing. And in a way, you know, I think for the core group, that's what we've shared so far is, what kind of people are we? Do we recognize where our strengths are? Do we recognize where we are meant to be, really honestly, and to stand in that kind of power that wells up when you speak like that, Michael? And then can we recognize and align with each other and make the right commitments? That's the other piece I feel, is that for any group, it's important that every single individual in the group is really standing in embodiment, is standing in their own empowerment of a recognition of what they're good at and why they're committing to a space like this. So I'll just speak to those few things. So in terms of context, we haven't kind of set anything in very much in form yet in the storyteller space, but we have aired a few things that I just wanted to share as kind of not a way of describing the history of the group, but more setting the landscape, setting the container for a shared understanding. So very early on in this group, we shared with each other, you know, a bit about ourselves, you know, personality tests, that kind of thing, like trying to share with each other what are our individual strengths. And then I frame, and this is just personal, but I frame this conversation very much in terms of, like, in order to enter into engaging with the storyteller space and for us to align, how do we do that? And, you know, we're open to any kind of suggestions to do that. But how I frame that is, personally, I recognize there are things that I'm good at, but there's some things that I'm good at that actually bring up that inspiration in me and that I can do and I'm energized to do, and which don't drain me. And then there are some things that I'm good at that I've learned to do, that I do because people ask me to do them, because people see that, yeah, he's capable of that. And I think we all have those kind of things. We've learned to be good at some things, and we have some things where it's really in our genius. And I think that's, since we started with that pattern, I just wanted to presence that maybe that's a way that anyone wanting to really sense and check out, do I want to really commit to this storytelling core group space? With the uncertainty of not knowing how remuneration's working at the moment, with a presencing of that, with a real sense of, yeah, I'm really owning myself in this space, and I'm willing to speak up, and I'm willing to, and that's one of the explicit agreements that we've we've presenced is radical honesty in this space, which I think is important in any space. But what we're doing when we're having a conversation is we're telling each other stories. And there's the story of what we're saying, and there's the background story of all of our beliefs and our perspective. And so, yeah, that isn't anything sort of fixed yet. We haven't kind of gotten to the stage of the group having either a voting method or a way of having formal agreements. But in the Miro, we have started creating that context. And so I really want to invite everyone into that context. A context, most importantly, where you can feel empowered, where you feel like, you know, even if you are going to say something that's really challenging, you can speak up, and that's appreciated. And where we can all go on a bit of an exploration together. I'm not thinking of anything, you know, super long, but where we can really speak to each other and say, these are my quirks, these are my strengths, and I commit to recognizing where my natural strengths are and to work in those. And then Anna's got a document, which is, because remuneration is not clear in this group, Anna's got a document that I think is kind of the second half to this conversation, at least in terms of getting really practical and thinking about engaging with this group and what we're about. So yeah, that's the context setting I wanted to give. And I was thinking of having essentially a form or even a call and a conversation where we ask some very clear, simple questions that help us to share that about ourselves, and then to match and align with, you know, where we're each going to best be able to serve in this group. I know that's taking the conversation down a little bit to something more specific, but given the time we've got left, I think that's a good context setting. So
just quickly to add
that's
to that
all I
point,
had in mind.
Sorry, I spoke over you.
Go on.
Just in addition
No,
to
not
strengths and what we're good at and the diagram of Ikigai, there is, depending on what your spiritual beliefs are, we are all sitting here because we chose to come back to planet Earth for a very specific reason. And every incident that has happened in our life leads up to fulfilling that mission if we're open to it. And so I fully, I'm with the idea for a call where we all individually explain the important steps that happened in our life to get us here. Because once you can see that golden thread, it becomes much clearer as to why the hell you're actually here. And it's more than strengths and skills and what the world needs. It's the deep, deep spiritual reason why each of us are sitting on this call, and it's worth unpacking what the reason is.
Beautiful. Okay, so then that creates a fuller picture. We come together, we share. What I also wanted to say was we share our shadows, and maybe that's a way to frame stories, because it's one thing to write a story and, I don't know, bring together a lot of things that are happening. It's another to write a story that calls to that golden thread in others. You know, the presence is the practical reasons and the aspects and the technologies and everything. But that's what we're doing. We're relying on people recognizing what needs to happen. And that I see that happening when we call to that inspiration, that thing that moves people. And if we can do that with ourselves first, and then we can really focus on telling stories that we make sure do that, we can observe and really learn to see which stories call for that in other people. That feels like the essence to me. So Anna, that's all that I had to share, and unfortunately sort of computer, it's a little bit difficult with the connection here. I'm sorry, I did plan to arrive on time, but I'm wondering sort of where to move from here. Whether you want to either share the Miro and go into that more deeply. There's also the document where we started to describe roles in the Storyteller Core group. I just want to, those are the other pieces where I feel like that context hasn't been shared alongside this conversation.
Anna,
Right.
to be a bit your eyes, Rachel raised her hand.
Thank you, Melanie. Perfect. Please go, Rachel.
I don't want to interrupt. I like what I like that concept of like getting to know people's what's happening in the background, because it gives us a view of the world, of like what's happening in actually on the ground, and how it's affecting people's lives. And like I didn't have the perspective of talking with, you know, big companies, but I have other perspective. You know, everybody has their different things that are going on, and like and I love to hear that about working with big companies and having them actually be talking with you, Michael, because that's big, you know. And so I think making a space for that is good. And then if we have enough time, I kind of wanted to share a perspective of money, if that works. So the way I kind of see money is like it's like air. We kind of breathe it in, we let it out, and we breathe it in and let it out. But what's been happening in our culture is we've been building our lives on top of air. So there's no grounding. And what we're doing with seeds is putting the roots into the ground. And we're bringing currency into a grounding interaction. And so as long as we stay within that grounding interaction where the roots have something to ground into, because it's really, it can be frustrating to build your whole life on money and then have it be able to just come out from under you, or whatever. And I think that big companies also are doing the same thing. They're building their entire corporations on top of air, and they don't ground into the earth, and they don't understand how the earth is supporting them, and actually could be more functional and more effective and than building in air. So that's just a perspective I wanted to share. And yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. And yes, we do have enough time. This meeting, this gathering, this call, this however we want to call it, is scheduled to be 90 minutes. And as I said last week, we don't always have to take the 90 minutes, but we can. It's here for us. And
Perhaps
for everyone, just feel free to do like Michael is doing, and Melanie, just unmute yourselves, because I really cannot see the hands being raised. So
maybe just to quickly, those big companies who think and feel exactly the same way we do on this call. They cannot speak out because they are trapped within a structure and a system that keeps them restricted from saying what they want to say. And so those are the individuals we talk to, not as a large corporate. And our goal, my goal rather, with the article that I've written, is to say, here is a framework for a new narrative. Now you, Mr. CEO, or lower down within the organization, it's your job to figure out how you can take that narrative and make it relevant to your situation, which includes your buyer region, the company that you're within, the networks that you engage with, all of those variables that we have no knowledge of or control over. But we're the storytellers that provide the space into which creativity and opportunity can step into. So we never talk to a corporate or an NGO or a government, but we do talk to individuals within the World Economic Forum or the United Nations, because they are desperately crying out for what we're sitting with now, but they can't propose it within the construct of the organization they represent. So it's their job now, and what I try to do with this idea of flow is just allow those spaces of opportunity for people to think of creative ways of doing that flow. So I would love to see people within this group who have a better understanding than I do of decentralized finance. Let's play around with opportunities for flow. And we put those out as beautiful stories. We don't talk to corporates because that is scary. And we're never going to get a corporate on board. But we'll inspire one individual within that corporate to take one of the stories that we tell, and they will run with it and make it happen. I think that's what our calling is.
I would also like to say something. I would agree that we shouldn't target the corporate frame, but I would even go a step further, because I think that the system is, if you look deeper, like it would be easier to create a new system instead of trying to change the system. And when we look at history, the former Renaissance came into existence through the mainly through the Medici family. I'm not saying that they were like the good guys, but they were funding artists and innovators and scientists. And I think something we've really to think about is patronage. And really, and every museum, basically everything that ever churches that ever happened is come through in being through patronage. And this is also where the circular economy is missing out most of the time, because we're only thinking of the gardeners, the kindergartens, only in economy. But the circular economy only works if we think in terms of culture. Because if there's a rich person, he can clinch onto all his wealth, build the biggest wall, and have all the surveillance, because all the poor people are greedy for his treasures. But if you really think, and you go into the city, and there's a beautiful spring, there's a beautiful church, you go to the market, and the mother is not in agony because she cannot afford to nurture children, but everyone is wealthy, then it radiates back to you. And I think we should aim for a storyline of creating this place, you know, like that there's this place where this thing can happen, or where we just experience to let it come into existence. And yeah, I think it would be something totally different. And yeah, that's my two seats so far. Now I remember. And another thing, I haven't read your article yet, but you were talking about taxes. And this is also something I've thought about, because actually, I don't know how it is in America, but in Germany, it's like the worst. Like they do everything with the taxes, but they doesn't benefit the normal individual. And if we would create seats, and I thought about the same thing, very similar projects, if we make it as a, I don't know the word, like a foundation for common weal. So if we don't take profit at all, but if we invest everything we've got in this circular economy and gift and to take and create something regenerative, wouldn't it be able to make everyone who invests in the seeds, make it like a gift to this commonweal foundation, so that he could even get back his taxes, because we are not taking profit out of it, but creating something for the commonweal. And you could even, if you enter commodity into the circular economy, you could even take it as a gift to the whole, and the people who buy the commodity also take it as a gift to the whole, because we are not taking profit, but we're actually doing that what taxes should do, because taxes should provide for everyone who's in need of it. And I don't know about the bureaucracy about it, but this would be the take how I would do it. Yeah.
Okay, I want to take that beautiful spark right there and direct us all right now into a mural board, if that's all right with you. I shared it in the chat, and I am going to try to share my screen also. If you follow on my screen. And please, now I don't see anyone, so if you cannot see something, just speak up. Keep unmuting yourselves. Can you see the screen and the mural board, or are you on mural right now?
Yes, we see it.
Good. Okay.
I can see it, but I'm on my phone.
Oh, that may be challenging for you, according to how good your phone is. Miro usually requests a lot of work from computers, let's just say. I want to invite us all to go to the board Stories Worth Telling in our Miro board. And I personally have been taking notes while all of you were sharing, and I have, I don't know, maybe close to 10 topics and subjects for stories worth telling. And my invitation here is to take, does anyone here not know how to work with Miro?
I know the Google board. Is it similar?
I have no idea what Google board is.
I don't know if it's called board, but it's like you can also jam in Google Drive. You can have a shared document.
Yeah, they are similar.
Okay.
They are similar. They're both whiteboard programs, and the menu on the left has all of the options for adding things, but it also has a shortcut where if you double click, it'll create a post-it. So that's why you see post-its so often in Miro.
Okay.
Yes, for anyone who's watching my screen, my invitation here is to, maybe this will not be big enough. I don't know. By the way, I can take this out of here, put it back, put it lower. And my invitation is to take sticky notes, put the sticky notes on the Miro board and write whatever idea for a story you wish for us to create or co-create together, whatever you think is important and should be being talked about, being shared, being the main subject of our explorations here. And I'm gonna take one. And they can be a little, this tech can save the world was taken from, for me, from what Michael said, which would be, what's the word I'm looking for? It's not tricky, but it's saying the opposite. It's tackling. Oh, I can't remember the word in English, but it's being the opposite. Obviously, whatever story we write on this, at least from my perspective and from Michael's perspective, at least, would be no, tech is not going to save the world. It's not the answer. It's a tool. It's a way of doing things, but it's not the answer. So I'm going to invite everyone to put sticky notes in this board. And these stories don't necessarily need to be, I don't see anyone putting sticky notes. Are we having trouble? Oh, João, thank you. Are we having trouble accessing the Miro board?
And I'm on the iPad, and that's quite challenging to do it both. So that, therefore, you might not see me. Okay. I will try my best, but not sure if it works. The iPad is not the perfect thing to work with the Miro board. Next time I will have my laptop with me.
It's okay.
Because I had to ask for editing, right?
Yeah, I also.
Editing,
right.
And did you?
I did, and I actually think it's open now.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, João, for approving.
Sure.
Who else needs? Oh, okay, Nara got in without asking for, awesome, okay.
I did ask. I think somebody set it to go.
Cool.
My computer doesn't love to do two things at once. So Zoom and doing internet is it's kind of hard on it. But I'll try. I'm not sure exact. I'm trying to figure it out. How to get the sticky. I know you just explained it, but I'm missing something about it.
I'm sorry, what do you want me to explain again? I can totally.
How to get the sticky on there and actually start editing.
So you can go either to the menu on the left, and there's one called sticky note.
Got it, okay. It wasn't bringing up the little text. That would help. I see it now, thank you.
Yeah, okay. Or you can double click also, did not know that, thank you, Longi.
Okay.
And yes, these stories don't only have to be stories told through words and articles. It can be literally any kind of expression that may feel right to you. So don't get too caught up with how on earth am I going to translate, I don't know, my shadowy relationship with money into an understandable, logical, rational text. Don't restrain yourself. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, no, I don't have access to the board. The one that says we're not moving fast enough, if that's a summary of what I was saying earlier, if it's a new idea, no problem. But I would prefer that we say we haven't fully recognized how large the opportunity is, or something like that. It's not so much about speed, but it's the scale at which we play. And its scale came in yesterday's conversation. It's not quite the same version of scale.
Perfect.
You know, can seeds play on the global stage? I think that for me would be maybe a better summary.
That can work too. If someone doesn't have access right now for whatever reason, you can just tell me. So Michael, how would you write that?
We're not playing on the global stage yet. Just to use the same format as what you were using, where you're not moving fast enough.
Okay, perfect.
Cool, thank you.
Do you want, that was gonna be the next thing, but no, I'm gonna leave it at that. Key aspects of regenerative economics, how it differs from what we're used to, yes. Seeds, grounded currency based on the support of the Mother Earth, yes. Animation. Cool. Loving these.
I also have trouble with Miro and with that many people. But I have one thing of maybe with the relationship with money that we can say like create positive stories around money, how money influences us positively.
Create positive stories around money, how it influences us positively. Does that go with you? Positively. Does that sound good to you, Max?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to put right next to shadow relationship with money, because I think they're both connected, and it would be very interesting actually to see the relationship between the two stories.
I wondered too, it's Tina Lala Gardens. I'm wondering how valuable it is to put into motion. And I know put into motion like small exercises and flow, you know, putting seeds into flow or putting something into flow between us here that might inform how that storytelling goes.
Yeah, okay, wait, I didn't catch that. Do you want me to put a sticky note for that, or are you proposing an activity?
Either. I'll put the sticky note.
Okay.
We were talking about remuneration earlier, and Tina has just mentioned flow. So a really practical thing we could do is to say, what stories can we come up with that inspire different categories of individuals to create our own remuneration? So how do we create flow into the seeds environment that become a remuneration for us? So what story can we take to high net worth individuals, philanthropists, organizations, and let's have different scenarios and play around with them and see what stories we can come up with in a way that they feel validated and valued for their contribution as well. That's how we stimulate flow.
Can you, that's beautiful, Michael.
I have something there.
Yes, can you just give me the sticky note for this, the sticky note version of this?
Create flow for ourselves. Stories of how we create flow for ourselves.
Creating.
Also picking up something in there about speaking to different audiences, which I'm writing out now. Like, it's a slightly different story to like a high net worth individual to like someone who's in a different context, a mother or a farmer or
I do weirdly have an exercise that could be something we could look at if it's interesting.
Please share.
Okay, so I had this odd opportunity come up. I was playing around in the NFT space before I learned about seeds because I knew it was going to be useful for transitioning my garden to a decentralized structure. And I find it to be a very playful place. And I just happened to be invited to bring an NFT to this gallery thing. And I'm not saying it's the perfect avenue or it's the perfect vehicle for that, but it is right in front of us. And so I put together a little slide deck, and it is in the storytelling Discord feed. So if anyone wants to take a look at it, but I feel like just even so I put a loose structure in there, unifying around back to the garden, or a theme around, what that means for each of us in some sense, and like create an NFT together just to see it, because it's going to be posted on the 22nd anyway. And it's like playful and there's no skin in the game. And we can see from just that small action, maybe what if we generate income, and then we could maybe like donate that to the Storytellers Fund and then figure out how to like work with it. So it's a small demonstration of something that we could investigate together later. And I know it's got a theme to it already, and that's not very like communal in nature, but it's a seed I planted. So there you go.
I love that seed. And as I told you, Tina, Apostle, who isn't here today, but is always coming in and out of our storytelling space, also had a very similar idea regarding the art that he has been creating in the storytelling space. And yeah, I'm going to ask him to share that publicly in the Discord channel or in the forum, actually, because maybe we will redirect ourselves in the storytelling space to the forum too, to continue these conversations async. And I'll ask him to post that there so we can start a conversation with all of us regarding that. And it's beautiful. Thank you very much.
If I can post a wish, then forum would be helpful for people like me who are not that multitasking like you all seem to be. So structure helps a little bit. As I'm not able to access the Miro board, I put my Post-its in the chat if anyone can take them and just put them on the board for me, please.
Since you've mentioned learning from the Medici family, I'd like to add learning from the Mont Pelerin Society, because that was the little society that created neoliberalism. So they injected thought patterns into how we view money today. And perhaps we can do the same thing, but with good outcomes as an intention. Mont Pelerin, I'll type it in.
Please do. And talking about funding, oh, by the way, that's a post-it that there's so many beautiful post-its I'll have to check. I don't know if it has been put out there, but financing the Renaissance in the, I'm not sharing my screen anymore, by the way. I'm going to share screen. Give just a couple of seconds. Can you all see my screen? Yes, no, maybe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So right here in Renaissance Explorers Art, I have put a link for a a YouTube video, History of the Renaissance, that speaks exactly of what was brought up by Arian. So if anyone wants to check that out, it's worth a watch. Learning the monk Pellerin society bad for telling our story good. I'll copy paste. I'm not sure I understand that, Michael, but I'll put it in a sticky note.
I think the red thread in this is learning from the past to create a better future. So it's not the Medicis as such. It was just inspired by Arian when he said that. It's taking the good things or also the bad ones and building our story on the existing stories and not giving them up and learning from them. That might be the long version of the short.
Thank you, Melanie. Okay, Bongi is telling us he'll send a roundup summary and a form for the few questions to help us self-inquire and share that with each other. Okay, that sounds like a lovely idea. I'm pretty sure we're all going to have other ideas for stories worth telling. So, oh no. I was going to say I was going to make this board stories worth telling bigger, but actually what we can do is be a little more organized than that and answer the requests for more structure. And go to that Miro board, look at those post-its, and my initial intention with this, but it's going to be a bit hard since everyone cannot access the Miro board. My initial intention was to go to the Miro board, put all the stories worth telling, all of us together, and then we go and see which ones regroup, which ones are connected to one another, and to form little storytelling groups, exploration groups, squads, working groups, however it wants to be called. By the way, storytellers should come up with a naming for that, and try to co-create those stories together in whatever way. And maybe one person will take the story of our shadow regarding money and be super inspired to write a very rational article on that. And maybe one person will take a seashell and create another version, a 3D palpable version of that exact same topic. And maybe someone will be inspired to create an infographic that shows the flow of money and where they believe or where they feel that there are blockages that are creating that shadowy relationship that we have with money. The possibilities are really endless. It's just our creativity, our imagination. And so my idea was to take those stories, those topics, group them into things that make sense, and come together in groups, in exploration groups, and create that all together. And we can do that in our forum, actually, because that way the conversation is more structured. That way we can have threads that for each story, we can have a thread for that story. We don't have to have like multiple topics and things don't get lost like they do on Discord. And that way we can also work async, and even people for whom it's 2, 3 a.m. right now, can maybe work in a time frame that is more comfortable for them. Please go, Melanie. I see you unmuted yourself.
Just an observation I would like to share. We're focusing now a lot on money, which is normal to this society and the world we are in. We might need one person in our group who brings us back to also other topics of the world, because I, living in the money world, understand that this is also something where we then get lost in money or not having money. So it would be great if one person could somehow steward that we will not forget other stories.
How about...
I'm not the best person for that because I'm passionate about creating the new story of money, so shouldn't be me. It's more self-protection.
All right. I was going to suggest that we all embody that, actually. I can definitely be that person because money is not my main focus overall. And it's not, yeah, it's not my main focus as it could be yours, Melanie, which I'm so thankful that there are people for whom it is their main focus. Please, and thank you. Please continue doing what you're doing, but it's not mine. But I would suggest that we all embody that, actually, and that we all remind ourselves of that. That's my suggestion for the group.
I would like to bring up, I wrote that in the chat, that I'm not too sure how much we, where we're moving with our storytelling in general, regenerative movement, or in Seeds movement, or for the game guide, because we are still sort of linked to the whole exploration also of how the game of Seeds works. And within there, I think we have a few topics that need addressing, sort of like the governance, which stories do we have around governance, how people are governed, where that links with money, and that's why it's in there too, but it's sort of social structures that can be explored. Yeah, how do we communicate? Our ways of communication, how they affect us, and how new systems that we can use help us in different ways. These are all stories that are not money-based.
Yes, and I would be very up for you putting them. Oh, you can't, right? Okay, remember that, Max, and I'll put them in the mural board and or on the forum directly later on. And that was a beautiful transition to, I just shared on the chat a document, a Google Doc, which is Core Renaissance Explorers Storytelling. By the way, we're calling ourselves BREST because why not? Because it sounds cool. It's a doc for activities, budget, guidelines, and everything in between. If I'm going to wait, or maybe, should I share my screen again, or would you prefer going over it in your own computers / phones? Tell me what's better. Does anyone feel like it's important for them that I share my screen or not?
I would suggest that you can do both. I know on my computer, at least, I always go on the document because sometimes the share screen doesn't come through clearly enough. But you can share screen and people can choose to look at that or the document themselves.
I know, I'm asking, is anyone present here wanting me to share the screen? Is it important for them or is it?
Yes, please.
Yes, you?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Okay, tell me when you can see it.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the doc we have right now, which encompasses a lot. It's a long doc because because it is. There's no other reason right now. And the reason why I thought it was a great transition is because I put the beginning of our governance policies to try out in this doc also near the end. And at the moment, I'll go there to show you, it looks like this. So there isn't much because we have just begun creating our governance policies for this space. And this is very much to be co-created in my humble opinion. So In this document, there's a lot of things. And okay, first, the things that are here are all the regular activities for REST, all the bounty-based contributions, the internal quests or possible internal quests, OKRs, guidelines for creations, governance policies to try out, and remuneration for core REST. So I'm gonna go over a little bit in a very quickly way, or should I make it quick? Should I make it fun? Can I make it both? The regular activities for REST, let's go over them really quick. It's lamplighting, core facilitating, Codex editing, Codex co-creating, scribing, editing, beauty/art gathering, and sorting or moderating. It was named after Soren, our beautiful, amazing human who moderates all Discord servers. So at the moment, in the regular activities of REST, what we are looking for, what REST is calling for, is people for co-creating the Codex with me, Bongi, and Tina, and at least one other scribe to scribe the inner and the outer sessions. So if anyone is interested in that, put your name here and contact either Nikki or me for the Codex. And yeah, and let's chat about that if you're interested in one of those regular activities. Otherwise, if anyone has questions, please unmute yourself and speak over me. It's totally fine. I'm gonna try to go quickly with this if there are no questions. Okay, I'll take that. There are no questions. The bounty-based contributions are artistic, expressive storytelling, and informative, accessible storytelling. I'm going to start with those two before I go to course designing, because that one is even, it's very open. Artistic and expressive storytelling, writing disruptive, inspiring, magnetizing, and fire-starting stories of the Renaissance through the lens of the Renaissance explorers, creating art in all shapes and forms, reflecting the regenerative Renaissance in the context of the Renaissance explorers in all its beauty. And then there are a couple of numbers for which I am, by the way, asking for feedback. So feel free to put comments here. And by the way, feel free to put comments everywhere in this document and ask questions, provide feedback. Anywhere you feel like feedback is needed or questions could be answered for more clarity. So the artistic and expressive, I think it speaks for itself. It's very open, very artsy. I don't know how else to say it. I think everything is already said in the description. If it isn't, please comment on it. And the informative and accessible storytelling, fun information. Writing easy to read, highly informative short articles for the Renaissance explorers to be published on Discord, libraries, social media. And I put a couple of examples. 500 words explaining governance section 2.1 to 2.5 of the game guide, or infographic. By the way, writing is not necessarily writing. Or infographic on why there is a voice decay after a certain point in our moon cycle for our co-op proposals. Creating media in all shapes that inform, renders accessible, fun, and light the understanding of specific game guide sections. So this is a huge part of the storytelling space, in my opinion. It's taking that game guide, taking everything that we're going to be seeing in the inner and outer spaces, and making that understandable, making that inspiring to people. Basically making those informations actually accessible, actually interesting. Maybe being a little harsh here, but at the moment they're not. They really aren't the most fun and joyful information to dive into. And our job here, or one of our jobs here, is to do that. And it's not necessarily going to be evident, But if we approach this with the perspective of how do I make this fun? How do I make this inspiring? For that to happen, we need to be having fun while we're creating that accessible piece of information. And we need to feel inspired by that. So I'm putting a call here for anyone who feels very strongly about certain aspects of that game guide. You're probably the perfect person to write or create media rendering that information fun and accessible and joyful. I'm going to stop here for a second. Are there any remarks, questions?
Maybe just my observation, if I may, that the writing that you've just described focuses on the tech itself. And while that's necessary, I don't want to lose sight of the bigger thing that the tech is enabling. So I don't see a space for the kind of writing I'd like to do, which doesn't describe the tech at all, but talks more about the space into which we're stepping. I'm not sure it needs to be included in this document. I'll give that some thought and maybe add comments into it, but that's my initial reaction so far.
Cool. It's not just about the tech, because for instance, in the first section or in the second section of the game guide, when we're talking about governance, we don't necessarily have to be writing stories that talk about the tech that will allow us to organize or coordinate that governance. We can be talking about the governance in itself. Does that make sense to you, Michael?
It does, but it opens up a bigger topic. So I think about place-based projects where I'll be working with very local teams, and many of those individuals will never have access to seeds and don't want access to the governance and I call that tech. It's not only the tech platform. They just want to get on and do something, and they just want to be paid for doing that work. So how can I enable that to happen, but without them necessarily understanding what's going on in the background? It's a bigger conversation that ties into what do we focus on? Is it Nick's view of this, or my view focus rather on the stories that create flow that allows all of this stuff to happen? Governance to me is something that place-based projects shouldn't have to worry about. There should be one individual who concerns themselves with the seeds governance. But anyway, that's a much bigger topic that we'll get onto another day.
Michael, my feeling is that this is a bit of the why and the how, which somehow is definitely related to the game guide as such. But people like you, or maybe also like me, we might rather tell the bridge building stories, in a way, to call them like that right now. And I guess that will have, in several sections of the game guide, have their place, but cannot directly link to one or the other section. So it might be good if we find a place for us and still let you also do the detailed part. And I guess there is room for both stories.
I would also like to add something. It's not particularly to the document, but it adds to what Michael said. And I think it's very important for, and it also could be written in an article, but for asking what is the goal, or how does this circular economy can come into existence. And I think for that, it's very important, you know, in a circle, all the points have the same distance to the center, that all the needs of a human being are met. And as long as we, and this is also very important for the going live, because when, as far as I understand it, when we're going live, we want to relate the value of the seed to the economy that we have established. And I think that is a very big step until we are there. And we have to stay focused on that we can provide or have an economy that provides for all the needs of a human being. So there must be some overview of, do we have people who take care of children, and maybe even going, when we talk about science and Renaissance, we also talk about, when we talk about Renaissance, we also talk about science and art. And I think this ties in what Michael said, that we also can approach people on maybe also on the, and this is another thing, that what the economy actually is doing, because the economy is hindering new innovations that don't further the established institutions. And maybe we should also target like new innovations, new regenerative projects that are all out there, and ideally they would all take part in this global project. And I think this is where the storytelling would aim to, and maybe not going to the established economies, but also going into the more unknown underdog projects and taking them and making them part of our story, and maybe be able to provide security or financial or whatever, or maybe even just food and shelter, you know? Yeah.
Thank you, Arian. I just want to give the voice to Tainara, who had unmuted herself and maybe wants to share something. And after that, I will propose we do a round of checkouts. And yeah, I'll give a little information after that. Go, Tainara.
No, just some question about the Google Doc. For us that are getting here now, the pink ones, the pink titles are those that are still getting more people to work with, right? And it's just like you write your name down there, you talk with one of the facilitators already, and then engage. Okay, it wasn't so clear to me. Thank you. And yeah, about the subjects that were discussed, it's a lot to integrate. Just want to thank all of you guys, and especially Michael, that came with the bigger trigger to us to discuss, and we were around the topic. So thank you for making us think on those things you lighted up.
Do you want to pass to someone else, since that was, I feel, already kind of a checkout?
Yeah, so why not? Passing on to Rachel.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing your appreciation of that. I appreciate that. So just to be clear, the check-in is kind of just talking about what we've experienced so far with everything, or what exactly should, yeah, explain. What should I be saying?
You can say however you are feeling right now, checking out of this session. I was going to preface this by saying that I have been the facilitator, non-voted facilitator for this session, but the way we work in the storytelling group, even though we have regular activities facilitating, it's different than facilitating sessions for us. And usually in all our sessions, we vote the facilitator, what we call Samara style, which we'll explain next Wednesday how that works. But every single session, we will vote a facilitator in the chat, and everybody will be able to facilitate the meetings. So today it was me, so being mindful of the time, I'm like, let's do a round of checkouts and continue this work async. So just a little checkout of how was it for you? What's alive for you right now? How are you leaving this session with us? And any feedback, very appreciated, always.
Got it. Okay. I think everybody has such great points and has brought up such great knowledge, bringing in their knowledge and understanding of the world, and I love that. And I definitely, one thing that I definitely have kind of felt like I've been missing is I guess knowing people, and I want to connect with more people on here, but I want to hear people's stories. I really want to hear people's stories, what they're experiencing, how they're interacting with the world, and I think everything, like, I think a lot of the time I'll be able to connect with the documents and the board to actually move things around after we get off of Zoom. For some reason, Zoom is a little bit big on my computer. So yeah, so that's pretty much that. And so I'll pass it to Michael.
Cool, thanks, Rachel. I love this idea of telling our stories, because in the telling of our stories, we will show to each other how we are creating flow in our lives. And then if I can take it on to the exercise that Tina suggested earlier, again, using external sources of self-funding this group is, to me, a demonstration of how Seeds creates flow for place-based projects. So I'm really excited about that. And then maybe as a final checkout, if I could ask you maybe to all hold an intention at 3 p.m. UTC time this afternoon. I'm presenting formally, or rather being grilled by this group of management consultants. They've read the article already and see the point now of this, and now they're going to kind of pick my brains to say, okay, how do we make this work in? And each one of them are going to bring the organization they happen to work with. So if you maybe just hold a space in your heart for setting an intention that the outcome of that call is good, because I think that once we can take these kind of conversations to the organizations that these individuals represent, their name is Institution, as in constitution, but Unstitution, and their tagline is Dancing with Monsters. So that's the kind of space these guys play in, and I'm feeling really good about the upcoming conversation, but I do really appreciate you holding an intention for a good outcome for that call. Thank you. It's been great today, by the way. I've really felt that this session was probably the best I've had so far with the Explorers group. Thank you all. And I must pass it on, sorry, Onion.
Thanks, Michael. Whew. Wow. And like have that feeling of a lot of huge spiritual like drops were done here today, and wow, and I just feel so moved, and on like I'm on different aspects of what everybody said, and I'm like still integrating all of it. Sorry, I'll need to take some time, because I was very like focused on what everybody was saying, trying to like constantly reflect within myself, but it was just like boom, 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 and I really enjoyed that move. Yeah. This, for me personally, is a huge thing what we are doing here. Like I might still not have words to describe how huge. I just feel it's huge. It's big, it's huge, it's huge, it's huge. And it's so empowering. And I just want to thank everybody for creating, and in a way, yes, like Anna said, that she was a facilitator of this space, but what I'm feeling is that like everybody is in a way facilitator of this space, and I really want to like push everybody from today to just continue on this flow, even myself, to the importance of like putting ourselves out there, putting our words, our intentions out there, because what I can feel is that all of these 13 people currently here and in other spaces, but I'll be reflecting on this one here. It's like talking from the most inner and most beautiful place of their hearts and their souls. And when I think of seeds and when I think of the possibility of what we are creating here, it's exactly that. We are creating something that's fully different from what we are used to be living inside and born with. And I want to thank for everybody's strength to like push from like some kind of shadowish environment that we are put in, to like find some kind of clearance and find some light and create more light for all of us. So I'm very happy to just participate in all the projects in storytelling. Like each one of them is like just moving my heart to be like jumping everywhere. Yes, this. And that's it for now. I just want to, yeah, very much grateful and thankful for all of you humans. Such a beautiful potential people. I just love you all. That's it. I'll pass it on to João.
I literally see this coming. I imagined you when it's my name. Yeah, today I'm very happy about what we are exploring here, about what Michael brought, and I had thinking about this kind of exploration outside for what we are doing, because we can literally see that what we are impacting will be more impactful if we look this yeah, I didn't want to say that. I hope that we become more like when we are exploring, and we let the trail for others that are coming. And I feel that we are, as storytelling, doing that, doing this trail for others, and for many others perspectives, corporations or people that are trying to engage their communities and see, look, what's the potential that we might come and see this clearly. What stories brings the potential that people see and understand with their own perspectives. And yeah, I have difficulties to express sometimes, and this is difficult for a storyteller. Might be, I think that I want to be more comfortable with when I say yes, I think that will be the thing, and take my energy on, and I feel that this space open for people bring their energy to bring their stories. I hope that we bring these spaces more openly in this kind of participations, and that's it. the sun is coming right now, and I'm happy today. I will pass for Nikki.
Thanks, Joel. I'll try to be quick because I see we're way over time. I'm very grateful for all your contributions, especially Michael, to have provided us this gentle cold shower to get us back to reality and show us that it's, or remind us rather, that we shouldn't forget about the bigger picture and get lost in the nitty-gritty of the game guide and the other aspect of seeds. And it's been also very present with me lately, this question: how can we be of greater value to people who are not interested in seeds or who are not having the chance to learn about seeds? And I'd very much like to follow up on this threads that Michael voiced here today. So thank you for that. And I'll pass it to Tina.
Hi, yeah, it's been, birds are singing. Sun must be about to come up. I did pull a card for us if we want to know about it. It's called Middle World. And the middle world is a realm of day-to-day reality and the playground of the living. It is the present moment where everything is happening. Yet the middle world is created by the future, not only the past. And it is a mirror of the invisible realms. When things are right in the middle world, heaven and earth support everything. When they are not right, heaven and earth must be brought into order as well. And I like it because it's like spheres and it's a tree and it's an actual garden. And the one thing that I feel like to do with seeds, I have a really special affinity for seeds because I am a natural farmer and I work in the soils and I see how closely reflective the elements of this currency really is to natural systems, and how there is an inherent bridge that exists simply through that reflective capacity. And maybe it is maybe the putting seeds into application through these projects, whether small or large, is going to be the thing that shows us how aligned it is and how important it is that seeds has an inherent value that's being cultivated right now, through us, through storytellers, through every aspect, I think, of this ecology. So I'm really excited to see how those threads emerge and how we have kind of a self-discovery and a group discovery of just how perfect the system kind of is. That's all I've got. Let's figure out how we're related to the natural systems, whether we're in cultural settings or corporate settings or personal settings. I think that's where we'll find we're united. That's all. And how about Max?
How can I make this quick? I want to maybe this space is for making the one big point is making the game guide stuff accessible, but that also means that we have stories that tell us how this whole thing works in an easy way. And with that, there is that thing of, how do these people do that on the ground? How has it happened already? So I think it fits right in there as well. And just having different ways of telling people about this, what we're doing, whatever that is, and also how they fit into this, how every one of us can find their place and come as them and play in this as well, because this is something that a lot of people I feel are missing right now, is the feeling of, oh, I actually can do something here and I can play, and everyone is looking for ways and how can I do that? And I feel we can bring these stories, the how-to stories in a way more beautiful way. So thank you for being here today. And then to Nick.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, just I guess feel energized by the session. I'm still not sure whether I'm feeling energy for storytelling overall. Like I notice, just always noticing kind of where my energy is and where what's standing out for me in different spaces, and kind of like there's something around the case studies idea that you were bringing, Michael, that's like, oh yeah, like that's kind of what needs to be done. And like I think yeah, there's some experiments I want to run into like regenerative economics and wisdom development, or the kind of inner space. I feel like there's a lot of energy for me around that, so I might focus my energy there more. But also been really energized by the size of the group, that we can have more of a discussion than some of the other larger groups where it's just not feasible with that many people. So that's really cool as well, and just yeah, a big plus one for me on the storytelling. It'd be great to like hear people's stories and kind of see where we can fit in with each other as well, if we know each other's kind of like skills and passions and gifts and where we're coming from. So yeah, it's really cool. Thanks for everyone, what you all brought today. Yeah, pass it on to Melanie.
Thank you. That's good that you pass it on to me, because I also feel energized. That would be the word for the session today. And Tina spoke about the natural system. And in this afternoon, Michael, when you are having at 5 p.m. in my time your session, I will be with Fabian. Some of you know her, having a real live session on speaking about seeds. So we will think of you and also of her. I guess it's her first one. And we were 13 today, and that's one of my lucky numbers. And as my work seems to be in the middle world and not the worlds I would like to escape to from time to time, I'm really happy that we had the time today. Thank you to all of you. Passing over to Reiki. Or Anna.
Reiki is probably...
Then it's Anna.
Yes, thank you. I cannot see any of you anymore because my computer just decided that it was too much for it. But I've been hearing all of your sharings, and I think what I want to share right now in this checkout for me is just a big amount of gratitude for all of you showing up here today to the storytelling space, to the Renaissance Explorers overall, to the seeds ecosystem, to this regenerative renaissance, just showing up perfectly the way you are, and with all your beautiful perspectives. And I want to thank all of us for showing up. I'm including myself in that bunch. I feel a lot of gratitude for being here, for sharing this space and this moment in time with other amazing humans. And I actually do share, Michael, your vision on, it is a very spiritual vision, and it doesn't have to fit for everyone, but it does make sense to me, and I share it, that we are here for a very specific reason, and we chose to be here, and we chose to come here to this point in time, to this earth, to this timeline, to this space, to co-create all together. So I am so grateful. Grateful is my checkout. And I'll leave it here because we have passed the appropriate time. And let's try all together to keep our times for next gatherings. I like calling these gatherings instead of meetings or calls. So for next gatherings, I will call for us to keep a better check of the time. Totally on me today. I was facilitating this and we went overtime. So let's learn from this and try to head our own ways on the time that was allotted. And I'm speaking a lot and I'm taking a lot of time. Yes, so that's it for me today. Again, thank you so very much. My heart is filled with love and gratitude for all of you. See you next time. Let's share every idea we've had in the forum and keep our conversations going, because let's not lose this beautiful energy that we are co-creating here together. Michael, you want to add something? I see you unmuted yourself, or was it just to say goodbye?
It was to say goodbye, but also to say I don't think we should be too concerned that we went over time today. I thought this was time very well spent. Beautiful session today. So well done for holding space.
Thank you. You can all unmute yourselves if you want and say goodbye.
Thank you, guys. Beautiful.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye.
Good luck, Michael.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.